So we are at our final topic in our rational numbers unit, and that's approximating their more specific value. We're going to be able to approximate roots to the nearest tenth. You might get asked to the nearest hundredth. Either way, that's fine. So I was able to do the square root of 3 is approximately 1.7. Well, that's a symbol we have to write because we're not getting the exact answer. But let's review for a second. This is a chart that you might want to copy down so you remember when we're talking about place values. Well, tenths is the one right after the decimal point. So if they're asking us to round to the nearest tenth, I actually have to go to the hundredth so I know how to round, okay? Don't worry, we're going to go through step by step right now how to do that. So we're going to focus on approximating the square root of 27. So your first step, I would make sure you have this written down perfectly, is what we did on part 2. Determine the two perfect squares that 27 falls between. And then we're going to find their square roots. So it's important that we understand this. Remember, we're looking at the square root of 27. So we'll look on your chart. What two square roots does 27 fall between? I hope you're looking and saying, okay, it's between 25 and 36. That's right. So we're going to put 25 and 36. You always want to put the smaller one on the left. You can write them in any order. But then we have the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 36 is 6. So that's where the square root of 27. That means it falls between 5 and 6. The actual value is a number that's bigger than 5, but smaller than 6. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, we're basically going to create a fraction by subtraction. We're going to take the number we're doing. So the rational number we're finding is 27. So whatever the problem is, and you subtract the lower perfect square. Okay? Then we're going to write our fraction bar. We're going to subtract the two perfect squares. That's always the pattern. So it's your problem minus the smaller, and then your bigger minus your smaller on the bottom. So it looks something like this. So yes, is there studying that comes to this? Is there memorizing steps? Yes. Okay. So what that gives us here is 2 on top and 11 on the bottom. That's our fraction now. So what we're going to go do is we're going to write a mixed number. I'm going to put the lower perfect square and the fraction. Why the lower perfect square? Well, we said that the number has to be between 5 and 6, meaning it's bigger than 5, but less than 6. So I can't put a 6 in front because that right there is bigger than 6. But we've done this. You've already done the video. We're going to convert this fraction to a decimal. So I'm going to review it once for you here, and then the other ones we're going to try on your own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my numerator inside my house and my denominator outside. Always. It's not big one goes inside. We got to get away from that. So I look. Can 11 go into 2? No, it can't. So I'm going to put my decimal, which every number has a decimal. We just don't write it. But make sure once you put that, you bring the decimal straight up. And I'm going to add a 0. Because remember, there's zeros there. So now I look. How many times does 11 go into 20? That goes in 1 time. I subtract my 11 and get 9. Well, I'm not done yet. So yes, you've got the 10th place. So a lot of people would stop. But you can't because you have a remainder. So I need to add another 0 and bring it down. 11 goes into 90 8 times. So I subtract 88. So let's stop here for a second. Yes, there's a remainder, but that doesn't matter to me. There's something down there. That's okay. I only needed that 8 up on the top to tell me what to do with this 1. So that 8 tells me that that 1 actually has to round up. So really my decimal is 0.2. That's to the nearest tenths place. So instead of writing 5 and 2/11ths, okay, I'm going to go back, take the 5, and I'm going to write 5.2. There is the approximate root of 27 to the nearest tenth. So we're going to do these two. If you want to work ahead, you can. If you want to pause, you can as well. I'm not going to do the divisions of the fractions. That's something you should pause and do on your own to practice. So let's look at the square root of 135. So step 1, what 2 are they between? 121 and 144. I'm hoping you're realizing the importance of memorizing these square roots. So the square root of 121 is 11, and the square root of 144 is 12. So now I need to do this. Remember, we're doing our fraction. So I have to take the irrational number I'm dealing with and the lower perfect square. So the irrational number I'm dealing with here is 135. So 135 minus 121 over 144 minus 121, which gives me 14 over, make sure you're writing your fraction bar, don't just put numbers everywhere, 23. So I'm looking at a fraction of 11 and 14 over 23. Now would be a time to pause and divide. 14 goes inside, 23 goes outside. Okay, and here's what we get, 11.6. Did you get that? Okay, if you thought I went through that one too fast, let's go through this one a little slower. Square root of 57. What 2 perfect squares is it between? 49 and 64. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 64 is 8. So here's how we do this. I'm not touching the 7 and 8. That's not what I'm using here when I make my fraction. We're all looking back up at my roots. So you're going to do 57 minus 49. That's going to go over 64 minus 49. When I do my subtraction, I get 8 on the top and 15 on the bottom. I want to take my lower square root, which was 7. That's how I make my fraction. Or I should say my mixed number, I apologize. Now pause the video and do 8 divided by 15. You should have gotten 7.5. It's my advice that when I say pause, you pause because you now have an extra credit opportunity. If you want extra credit, and I very rarely give extra credit, if I do, it's going to require some work. This needs to be handed to me when you walk in tomorrow morning. Put it in the back box. You must show all your work, and you have to do all 4. So now would be a good time. If you have a question, you can comment below, or you can send a message on Remind. If you want help on the problems that are extra credit due tomorrow, you can do that as well.